Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for February 11th, 2022. I am Benji Fisher moderating, and also here on the meeting are Ralph Kohler, who's sharing his screen, Aaron McHale, Andre Pedrosa, Kimberly, Offer Shal, Tiago, Thomas Howell, and Willie Christian de Oliveira. That's as much of your name as I see. So Ralph, would you start by reading the issue number for this issue that we're going to discuss?
Yep, we are revisiting the issue from last week's or the week before, I'm not sure. It is number 25142218. It's a regression. It's called Pages, Manage Fields, Manage Form, Manage Display should include name of content type or entity. I paste also the link again in the chat. And over the course of the last 2 weeks or so, I was writing up the results and the agreements we've reached with talks with the early office hours attendees, as well as in the last usability meeting we had the day after. And there were only small details we haven't talked about, or where the recommendations differ between the accessibility and the usability teams. And I wrote up basically a draft for the issue I've linked, but I wanted to try to get a consensus on the clear actionable items backed by both teams, so it's more clear for people contributing, making the changes. And well, I came up with 2 questions for the usability team, and I also have 2 questions, similar ones, for the office hour next week. I plan to attend as well. Question is, if you take a look at, it's a generic Drupal 8.3.5 installation, just for the context that we know what we're talking about. Question is, should the H1 be shortened even further, like the accessibility team suggested? Point is, the accessibility team suggested to write, for example, manage fields, article content type. And we agreed on, for example, manage form display or manage fields for article content type. Point is, we tried to make titles even shorter and more scannable. So the question is, if we should go with the suggestion with the accessibility team, or should we make stick to the suggestion we did with the for? Because the point is, it's an article in German, but with an introduction and a conclusion in English as well. But basically, it exemplifies how screen readers read out punctuation marks. And there are sound samples for each punctuation mark used, as well as in our case for colon. And for most cases exemplified, colon leads to a longer pause, which would be desirable outcome. Only problem is with JAWS, it is not. So the question is, which row to take, for or a colon? And the second question is, at the moment, as you can see, article is wrapped in an M element with class placeholder leading to an italic display. But question is, when we are front loading and just have for the sighted user article content type, wouldn't it be better, provide a better readability if you just leave out the M element and just write article content type without any italic display? Those are the 2 questions I would wanted to discuss.
So just to clarify, both of these are related to the H1,
Yep.
the visible page title. Could you switch to the Manage Fields tab, because that's what you were discussing most?
It's interchangeable. It's just one of the 1 second. Yeah, it is faster than I feared.
Okay, so it currently says Manage Fields, and our suggestion was to make that Manage Fields for the article content type, and the suggestion is to shorten that to Manage Fields : article type. Is that right?
Yep, that was the accessibility office hours suggested. I can paste. How do I type it out?
And it might be nice if you could just use your browser tools to alter the text for.
If I remember correctly, I think we discussed and may have agreed on to drop the word manage from at least the tabs. So is that still the case? Are we still dropping the word manage?
No. The manage that it should be dropped is still set, but I just wanted to keep it in scope and not remove at the moment manage from the discussion in that regression issue, and stick to the current state, which is manage fields, but it should be fields, or in other case form display, or just form or display, and so forth.
We need to change.
1 second.
Right. So if we if we drop the word manage, then the word for doesn't become as big of a deal. But then there's also a good point about screen readers and how they interpret colons.
Yeah, so as usual, just to focus discussion, I'd like to concentrate on the usability aspects, and certainly accept I tend to accept the recommendations of the accessibility team, and so the question really is whether there is any usability problem with dropping the word for and using a colon instead. Is it less actionable? Is it less clear? Is it confusing? Personally, I don't see any problem with using a colon rather than the word for. Does anyone else agree, disagree?
That sounds good to me. Thank you.
I think to me, for reads just a little bit easier than like more fluidly, but I don't disagree with just a colon, because again, it is literally less characters there. So following the principle of less is more, then fine, colon, sure.
No, I don't like that one.
Yep, me neither. Oh, no.
Just while you're trying to do this, bit of context about the EM tags. I think they're added automatically by the translation layer when you, so like the article, the word article gets substituted into the title, so it just like automatically because it's a substitution, it automatically puts it in EM tags. So I feel like that might be, if we wanted to do something like that, that feels like it's probably a different issue.
Oh, it is from the translation system, but you can use @ rather than % to get something inserted without the italics.
Oh, right. Okay. That's there's a fun fact.
On the other hand, again, from the usability point of view, consistency is important, and it is pretty consistent in the Drupal admin user interface that the content types are italicized this way all over the place. So I think from a usability point of view, we want to keep the italics. And Andre has a comment in the Slack chat. My opinion regarding the M tag is that it can be kept. I think once the text is shorter and it's a big font size, it doesn't really cause any readability issues because it's easy to spot and read. So short version is, yes, he agrees with me that keeping the M tag is the right thing to do. Any other opinions on whether to keep the italics, the M tag?
Then we could probably sum it up that it would be okay for the group if it's either a for or a colon, but in case I mentioned the link I've pasted in the chat about the screen reader outputs, also in next week's accessibility office hour. And if the accessibility team still thinks that the colon is the better way to go, then I'll use the colon in the recommendation in the reply, and the M we keep.
Yep, I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, just wanted to make it clear that we have a clear agreement across all teams. And one last bit, because the accessibility team suggested to keep the scope of the H1 issue tight, though that it's getting committed, or the chances that it's getting committed higher. But last time in the usability meeting, when we've discussed it, there was a clear point made that the title and the labels of the tabs are quite intertwined, and that it should be done together more or less. But while I was working through all the points and writing things up, I had a second thought about it, and basically it doesn't really matter if it's in the end that the tab manage form display is called form display or form or anything else, because with the pattern applied for the H1 issue, it's just you have the name, then you have a colon or a for, and then you have the name of the content type, and then the content type or bundle name, entity or entity type name, either content type or vocabulary and so forth. So in my humble opinion, it could be done separately, even though it's intertwined. So, and in the write-up, I'll hopefully finish later tonight and post then in the Slack. My suggestion would be to create some sort of meta issue and then add, for example, the H1 issue, then the issue about the tab naming, and a few other to be created issues there.
Yeah, what I remember is that we agreed to discuss both together the
Yeah.
H1 and the tab labels, because we want to have the context of one when discussing the other.
Yep.
But I think we always agreed with the idea of keeping the issues separate, controlling scope.
Okay.
So I think a meta issue is a good idea. That would be a good way to summarize the discussions that keep the two together, or that consider both at the same time. But yeah, it'll certainly be easier if we limit the scope of each issue and just try to change the H1 text in one issue and
Yeah.
the tab
Okay.
labels in another.
Then there was a slight misunderstanding on my end, because I had the impression that we should bring in the H1 issue and the tab issue at the same time when both are ready and finished. That was my understanding, but then it's totally fine and good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're quite often we will discuss a big problem and then break it up into multiple issues because it's easier to get them committed. So absolutely is a good way of doing it.
I'll stop the screen sharing.
Okay, thank you, Ralph, for leading that discussion. And I see a few more people have joined the meeting. I think Kimberly, were you here early? And Johnny Wesley and Marina Victoria. For those who just joined, I'll say again that if it's easier for you to type rather than talk, if you put something into the Zoom chat, I will read it out into the discussion. And we are short of issues to discuss. If anyone who's joined recently has things they'd like to bring up, please suggest them. And if not, we could go to that issue that that Andre brought up, even if it's not a usability issue, if it is something that would benefit from having several people look at it. We could bring that up. I could share my screen, or you could, Andre.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I can. There's no problem. Okay, so can I start?
Yeah.
All right. So just 1 second. So basically, this issue is the issue number 3251709. And here people were discussing about the Claro theme, that it was missing some colors from the blue range, and they didn't place any patch yet, but they gave these examples here that are on the issue in the issue summary. And it's basically, I thought that if it could be brought to the meeting to for a general approval, if these colors here, if this scheme of colors is okay, because there isn't a patch we aren't able to apply to the site and give a better and deeper look into how it will look in the site. But these are some examples that Arena provided, and it's basically some waiting for approval. Some people says Chaeji already approved, and yeah, I just thought that would be a good idea to bring here to see if everyone else think this is a good range of colors. There's nothing. I will share with you the links so you can look into your computers. Yeah, but that's basically it. It's a very simple issue. There isn't much to discuss about.
So my impression from looking at this issue is that the first thing is that comparing the two color scales, it's a little surprising that the current colors are shown with darkest at the top and lightest at the bottom, and the proposed ones are shown with the lightest at the top and the darkest at the bottom. So it would be easier to compare if they were in the same order. But
Oh,
my second comment is that the second color scale is much prettier than the first color scale, but that's not really helpful in deciding which is the better color scale. And if I can't really give an opinion on this without some more screenshots. So whether they're mock-ups or whether there's a patch available or not, I'd like to see more before and after shots showing the different colors in use.
Okay, I can comment about it and the issue that some more screenshots would be helpful to comparison. Apparently what happens is that the theme already has like a predefined scale, but some of these colors, you can see the name here already, they have the same color, or they doesn't exist, but they should have like color blue 102, color blue 900, and some of the middle are just the same color. That's why she proposed more diversified palette of colors. Batil, of course. Sorry. But I can comment about it that more screenshots comparing the before after would be helpful. Anyone else has some idea, questions?
Okay, I guess if there aren't any other opinions on that, I'm afraid we've run out of things to talk about. So unless there's another issue people would like to bring up, I think we'll call it a meeting. Thank you for attending. Again, if you're someone who hasn't been on the meeting before, please either make a comment on the issue for today's meeting or give me your Drupal.org username in the UX Slack channel so that I can make sure that I give you credit for attending the meeting today. And let me just have a quick look at the comments in the chat. A few people saying nothing further to discuss, and Johnny Wesley says, thank you for the mention. It's my first time in Drupal meetings, wanted to come and learn something new. Yes, so feel free to come to the next meeting, and if you have something you'd like to discuss, feel free to bring it up. Or if not, just give your opinion on the usability aspects of the questions we discuss. So I hope many of you can make it next week, and that'll be it for today. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks all.